feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college rule.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. We're just a couple of comics who live in Tucson who love sports, and this is what we do. We just sit around, talk about some sports figures, and today we have possibly the greatest white man that ever played for the Lakers.
It's very true. Except Fletch.
Oh, damn. I forgot about Fletch. Holy jeez. Now we're starting to get into some territories.
Some references.
We're talking about Kurt Rambis. When you look at or when you think of the Showtime Lakers, nobody ever thinks of Kurt. And he was...
Think about him in my dreams.
He was the Rodman of that team, where he was just the cleanup, that power forward that just did all the dirt.
Yeah, it was the dirty work. It was like, Porta-John after a metal show.
Oh, man.
Dirty work for those Lakers.
He
kept them all squeaky clean, Chris.
That's what I mean. He was the dishwasher, and everybody else was like the waiter and the front house man. I don't know what I'm referencing.
The valet who does stuff for that parking thing on Seinfeld.
That's right.
All right. So Kurt Rambis, born February 25th, 1958 in Terre Haute, Indiana. Young boy, though, he's a California guy. He's always been a California guy.
Moved to California when he was like 4 or 5. Born into an all-Greek family, which,
Opa.
if you know anything about the Greeks, they don't like to intermingle.
No. I mean, my entire knowledge of their culture is based on one film made about 20 years ago.
And the sequel.
And that's right, they did make a sequel. God damn, you're right.
That movie was one of the biggest movies of all time. So moves to California and grows up because he is like what we say with a lot of these guys, he is just taller than everybody else.
Randy Johnson.
He's a Randy Johnson.
But he's a fucking nerd. Sorry, he's a nerd. I mean, that's the only way to I don't mean it to be mean, but
he is.
His first pair of glasses in 3rd grade. He's taller. His height was all in his legs, so he had his pants up to his chest. So he's just like white Urkel.
Just looked, especially for the era, looks so nerdy.
All I can think of is Austin Powers. Nerd alert!
Yes, seriously. But I imagine sports was something that he found that he was so much better at that he was just like, I'm not a nerd. I'm really good at sports.
I'm tall.
Yeah, I'm taller than you.
Screw these graduated cylinders. I'm going to dunk on you.
That's right.
His older brother, Randy, though, which added kind of insult to injury, was a star quarterback on the football team.
Oh, yeah.
He also played baseball and pitched on the baseball team. And Kurt would always hate when people would say, oh, you're Randy's brother. But when he took his Randy's spot on the basketball team, he said, I would have made the team if you weren't such a big geek. But you know what? This is where karma, sports justice comes in. Randy ended up pitching in the minors for the Cleveland Indians during the Rachel Phelps era. Well, not the Rachel Phelps era, but I mean for the Indians.
Yeah.
He tore his rotator cuff, and then it ended up cleaning pools for the school system in Cupertino.
Well, them's the breaks that you don't.
Some have said he was a good drummer in a band called the Lone Rangers.
Ooh, I love that. How are you going to pluralize the Lone Rangers?
What's that?
I don't get it. I don't get what you're saying. All right, well.
There's 3 of you. Anyway, but he's a very good high school player there at Cupertino High School. He's a basketball player and goes to Santa Clara there.
Yeah, he goes to Santa Clara University right there in California and really becomes one of their best basketball players of all time.
Oh, yeah. No, he was the...
If not their best.
Conference Freshman of the Year during his first year there. He's the all-time leading scorer and second in rebounder. He was a conference player of the year as a senior there in 1980.
Yep.
And in 2008, his number 34 was retired.
Yeah, for Santa Clara University. So he's definitely big in certain circles. You know what I'm saying?
Big in circles. 2-time all-conference, and his final year, he averaged almost 20 and 10.
Yeah.
So he's like white Tim Duncan without the athleticism.
Without the...
But he's grinding. He's a good college player.
He is a good college player, and then you see him get drafted by the Knicks
in 1980.
But whatever happened, I was trying to kind of look at what happened with this.
Okay.
He just kind of didn't make the team.
So couple things. Number one, this is a spider web for you.
Okay.
This 1980 draft, the Celtics have the first pick, but they trade out with the Warriors, who pick Joe Barry Carroll.
Okay.
They trade down to number 3. Not only do they get Robert Parrish, they get at number 3 Kevin McHale.
Oh,
who
nice.
We'll bring up later.
Nice. Yeah.
But when he goes to the Knicks, he's basically waived twice.
Yeah,
he can't.
well-
He has no shot with the team. They just don't. And when you look at him, you're not obviously you're not selling jeans like they said in Moneyball, but you're just like, this guy plays I get that he's tall, but he plays basketball.
Yes, he doesn't have the look. I feel like maybe the Knicks want that as like dude, like in Moneyball, where they're just like, his girlfriend's ugly. You know what I mean? Where it's like, that has nothing to do with anything. So he gets waived by the Knicks. He ends up going to Greece because he's from Greek descent and playing for AEK Athens and becomes a Greek citizen. And they actually go on and win the Greek league the year that he's there.
And he changes his name to Kyriakos Rambidis.
Yep.
Because you know what? That's good. That's showing the people there you care.
Well, it's a very Greek thing, or it's a very Greek name, but I feel like he's just like, they're not going to understand that in America. I'm still going to go by Kurt Rambis.
So he re-signs in 81 because he's cut twice by the Knicks.
Yeah,
and
cut.
They just don't want him.
No.
And then signs with the Lakers.
Who do want him?
Who do? Well, they're very interesting. Jerry West, who was one of their executives, he's the NBA logo guy. So when you think of the 60s and an iconic player, one of the most iconic NBA players ever, he said, "Who invited the geek with glasses to camp?"
Yep.
His future wife, Linda, who was working, I think, in PR for like volleyball and basketball for the Forum at the time, who he later married, said she heard about him before she even met him because people were making fun of him.
Yes.
Which is good for you. That's some dick slinging confidence, my man, to come back from that.
So he signs up with the Lakers and essentially starts just stacking world championships. Like, it's such a crazy thing to think that the piece that will like kind of puts this together is this hard-nosed power forward that gets this Showtime Lakers. And what he said was, when he came in and why Pat Riley like really, really liked him, he was just like, you know how to start fast breaks and you know how to get a defensive rebound and literally look up and be ready for it. And he was just like, yeah, that was my only mission.
But that's the kind of player Pat Riley was.
Exactly.
And
yes.
He'll give you 5 and 5 and throw elbows in the paint and start your fast break. That's really what he did.
Another thing that, because I got into some, just like him talking about a bunch of stuff, and he was just like, I'm not going to take it personal when somebody hits me with an elbow. I'm hitting guys with elbows in there. I'm not doing it on purpose. I'm just saying this is the game. And then they show a bunch of clips right after he says that of him just swinging elbows. It's not even like, you're just like, oh, no. You guys were like really trying to decapitate each other.
So one thing was, though, there was a good Kareem story out of this. I don't know if you had ended up reading it, but when he went to Lakers camp, which was like 6 weeks, son is a free agent, he was thinking, I'm not going to be here. I have a beach house in Greece. Like I can just go back. Yeah. And so he didn't try to make any friends while he was there. He's just like, I'll see if I can make the team. So I guess they were out and about eating in Utah, and Kareem basically said, hey, Kurt, say something. And he goes, what? And Kareem said, yeah, that's enough.
So good.
Then he got on an airplane, which Kareem later flew. But in 81, 82, so he's buried on the depth chart, though.
Oh, yeah,
but
in the first.
Mitch Kupchak basically has his knee explode, and the two guys who were set to replace him don't really play up to par.
No,
so
and he does.
They put him in 81, 82, and he does basically what we just talked about. Giving you 5 and 5 and some elbows.
Yes, and that's like I said, he was very much what you look at, like what Rodman, what Pat Riley was, like that type of player where he's just like, oh yeah, he does all the dirt, he does all the fighting. If there's gonna be, you know what I mean? He's almost like your enforcer in hockey.
And this was the era of NBA white guy fights.
Oh my god!
Oh man!
I don't even know if I told you this. Like for Christmas, I got a couple of packs of like 88. Tops, whatever. I open them up and I'm like going through it, and you just don't realize how many crusty white guys were in the NBA.
I know.
It's crazy. You're just like,
God,
these mustaches need to be tamed.
That man has a larger beer gut than I do.
Yes, exactly. It's so many crusty white guys.
That is a testicle poking out of a man's shorts.
The onion is dropped and they put it on a Fleer. All right.
Back in my day, we used to tie an onion to our belt. That was the
Which is the
style
style
back in time. Now, nickels used to have bees on them. You'd say, give me 5 bees for a quarter.
That was it.
That was it.
So he plays in 64 games that year. They go to the playoffs because it is Showtime. Like
It is the
go listen to our Kareem episode for
Yes.
the Showtime aspect of it. They beat Phoenix and San Antonio, and they go to the finals. Kurt's playing in the front court, and he's taking it to a man we did an episode on before.
I was going to say, so he's taking it to the 76ers and a fucking undersized Wes Unseld, you know what I mean? Or whatever, yeah.
Chocolate Thunder.
Chocolate Thunder.
He's landed.
Oh, yeah. God, this was the 76er team.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, not the Bullets.
Man,
No,
that's
this
not
is
the Bullets.
76ers.
Yes.
Yeah. So he told
got
Chocolate
mixed-
Thunder, I'm taking Juicy Lucy
Because-
out to the Forum Club after the game.
Yes, because and this is when the Lakers really just like show that you're just like, oh yeah, they were the best team in that.
Yeah. I mean, in that era. So he averages almost 8 points a game and 6.5 rebounds.
So him.
It's such a Kurt Rambis, but they win. He's a champion.
Yes.
He's champion his first year.
Well, to damn, I'm coughing. To point this out, he literally the year before was in Greece, not thinking he was going to be an NBA player, and then now he's a literal NBA champion on a dynasty.
When you would think he'd have a better chance of replacing John Travolta in Greece.
Yes,
Than not having to go
That's
back
perfect,
there. Like,
'cause, yes.
Just throwing that out there. 82-83. He starts 77 games.
So he is now like in the Showtime team as that fifth guy.
They blow through the playoffs again. He's 7.5 points a game, 6.8 rebounds. This is kind of like when he plays the most outside of 1 year we'll talk about later.
Yep.
They breeze by Portland and San Antonio, but Moses Malone joins the Sixers. We had
And
talked
that's-
about
yep.
that in our
And this is
Chocolate
when the
Thunder.
76ers come back and they win. Which and I just have to say this is why everybody says NBA basketball in this era was so good, is because there was like 3 or 4 teams that were making it, and it was like they would lose and then next year they would come back and beat them, and then it was just all of these rivalries in these giant markets that was like
blood feuds.
yes, literal yes. So 83
84 does a fantastic job. They go to the finals, and in game 4, Kevin McHale comes back and absolutely lights him. I mean, if you did this today, they would probably suspend you for multiple seasons.
I agree with that. They would. I imagine just the way that
He
the
tried to, like,
decapitate
yeah,
him.
like, hurt
It's
him.
wild, yes. So like, and it's very iconic for the '80s when they talk about how rough it is, because Rambis is going on like a half breakaway, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And McHale comes in and they say clothesline. That's a nice way of saying it.
Oh, I mean, this was the era of just short shorts, hairy legs, and clotheslines
And
every game.
Kurt got up and was like immediately like, "Let's go,
Yep.
let's go." But
Ding, ding.
just to point it out, the era of what it was, this wasn't a regular season game that 2 teams hated each other. This
Yeah.
was in the finals game, like, you know what I mean? It's yeah.
I mean, like, and they end up losing that series in 7 to Boston, and I think that's like 9 or 10 in a row that they've lost. And if you want to go back and listen to that, we have an Elgin Baylor episode, the early Kareem
yeah.
ones. So, yeah, if you want to hear about the Lakers basically just having an ultimate nemesis. But in 85, they end up finally overcoming the Boston Garden and the Celtics, beating them in 6. So he wins another title.
So 2 titles.
And he's becoming quite the popular player in Los Angeles although they're a glamour franchise, you always want to root for the underdog on them.
There's definitely people that love the Showtime-ness of it, but he starts to become almost like a cult figure. And I forget what the announcer's name was.
Chick Hearn, because
Yes.
he was the one from Fletch.
Yes.
Yeah.
He nicknames him Superman, but because he's dressed as Clark Kent.
Yep.
So that's I'm just saying to the disrespect, but the jovialness of it, where he's just like, dude, you're Superman, but you're Clark Kent with your glasses.
But I mean, he played up to it. It's like he took
Yes.
it that way,
Yes.
not like where it could have been negative, and it was never intended to be that way. He'd have kids dressing up in Urkel glasses.
He had a Superman fan club, which is literally what his thing was called, and they were called the Rambis Youth.
I don't know if you can call groups youth anymore after a certain time, but they went with it, Chris.
It was that era, sir.
It was men of their time.
Men of their time.
85, 86, career high in field goal percentage, almost 60%. That was the year.
They beat the Pistons, right?
No, 85, 86 is when Ralph Sampson and Hakeem were healthy.
Oh, and they lost in the Western Conference.
Yeah, they lost in the finals in 5 games. 86, 87, though, they beat the Celtics in 6 in the finals.
Yep.
And 87, 88, they go back-to-back. Unfortunately, this is the time where he's losing playing time to AC Green. And Pat Riley is kind of like, well, I'm not gonna play you because you're not gonna get any better, and this guy's better.
Well, I was gonna say his window and his like literally what you're saying, his potential is like hit his ceiling, and his window is like this is as good as he's gonna get. If we have somebody else coming in, they're gonna take his
younger
spot.
and more athletic. He can score more points and rebound and do the same things you do and not look like a nerd. No,
and NBA is changing at this time, so his style is starting to kind of
they're calling hacks now.
Yes,
I mean like obvious ones. He just really he didn't like his exit though out of LA.
Out of LA, yeah,
didn't
no,
care for it. But he still won 4 titles.
Yes,
still won 4 titles.
Well, it's you would never have guessed getting cut from the Knicks twice.
Yeah.
Going and playing, and this isn't playing in Europe now. Like this is him going to Greece because he's Greek, not because it's a great opportunity.
I mean, there were probably people in that league who were fishermen.
Oh my God.
Like, I mean, just like that was their main source of income.
Yes.
Not basketball.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's still got basketball left in him. That summer, July 28th, 1988, he signs with the expansion Charlotte Hornets.
Yep.
And like most expansion teams, they need bodies. Mm-hmm. They need bodies.
And veterans.
And like, show the younger guys coming along. What's what? 75 games, 75 starts. He's a starter this year, Chris.
Yes.
Career high 29.8 minutes a game, 9.4 rebounds, and 11.1 points. Granted, the Hornets are awful.
Yes.
I mean, this is pre- Alonzo Mourning, Muggsy Bogues, and Grandmama, but, good on you, Kurt.
Yes, they're an expansion team, and he does do, I imagine, what they ask. They're just like, you're good enough.
Yeah. Why don't you put on those glasses, Superman?
Yep.
Why don't you get in that phone booth? That's 89-90. He starts with the Hornets, but is eventually traded that December to the Suns, who were out, I believe, for Armin Gillen, I believe, Yes, they were out front court guy. They needed help for Tom Chambers on those pre-Barkley Suns teams.
Oh, yeah.
Front court.
Barkley's over at the 76ers.
In fact, Cotton Fitzsimmons, who was his coach, when he was the Kansas City Kings head coach when Kirk first came into the league, though, before he took over Phoenix. And he said, he looked terrible. You couldn't win with him on the court. But...
Well, just to put it in his personality, Pat Riley said he just goes, other guys have sharp Adidas bags. Rambis got this black satchel, like the kind that you would hold a bowling ball in, and it was like vinyl. He doesn't have, and this is he doesn't ever bring a garment bag. So like for a suit or a suitcase.
That man probably had 3 pairs of underwear.
That's all he brings is just like literally one of those like old school, like just like the thing to hold a bowling ball. And he goes, and that's all he brings, even if it's a week.
He made no mention of a toothbrush.
No, he doesn't have anything.
It's
he literally
satchel.
just
Indiana
has
Jones
that.
wears one.
Yes. God. But that's what Pat Riley said is that's the kind of guy he was on the Showtime Lakers. He was just like, dude, I'm just carrying a trash bag,
But you know what? I think that says to other guys on the team, like a Magic or a Worthy, not necessarily Kareem, because he's been playing since like the 60s, but it shows guys like Magic and Worthy and the type of all-stars that made Showtime like, hey, look at this guy.
Yeah.
He's showing up every day. He's giving it everything just to be here.
Exactly. And
he's carrying around a satchel.
Yes. Like he's not flashy, and his game reflected his personality. You know? So he went to the Suns.
He was logging 25 plus minutes during that period with the Suns. They beat Utah in 5 in the first round, then the Lakers in 5 there. And unfortunately, they lost to Portland in the Western Conference Finals that year in 1991-92. In 89-90, excuse me. He ends his career the next 2 seasons with the Suns. Then he goes to the Kings again.
Yeah.
Then he goes back to the Lakers to be a coach, which I found interesting.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, yeah, you can still play. He lasted a couple of years with the Lakers just based on. But this is the end of the Lakers of the 80s, though.
Yes.
I mean, this is by 93, 94, 94, 95. I mean, Showtime is gone.
But then he goes into this coaching role, and he's assistant coach for the Lakers for like 5 years.
Yeah.
I think becomes head coach for like
The lockout
20
season,
minutes.
he finished the season
with
them. Got swept out of the Forum, one of my favorite sports memories. That was so nice. And then stays on as an assistant with Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
For bits and pieces of time. Wins a couple titles.
Wins a couple of titles, yep. 2001 to 2004, 5 to 9. He's Lakers assistant coach. And then 2009 to 11, he actually becomes the Timberwolves head coach.
That was I think 2009 was the year, or was it whichever one of those years, he comes in either right at the time or the year after they pass on Steph Curry.
Yes.
So it's those years were not kind to the Timberwolves.
And he's going to be forever remembered for that era of like you pass on the best player in this, you know what I mean? So,
you know the guy you replaced though was?
No.
Kevin McHale is head coach
Really?
of the Timberwolves.
Oh,
which
that's
is,
awesome.
There's a
I
spider
love
web
that.
right there.
God, I love that. Becomes Knicks head assistant coach. And something that I remember somebody saying, they were just like, the guys that can play and then coach normally make the best assistant coaches, not the best head coaches.
Yes.
Because it's almost all focused in on play and that kind of shit. And the head coaches have so much other stuff that they have to deal with that they're just like, you see the best, like Patrick Ewing, like you know what I mean? So, like these bigger guys that they become these assistant coaches, and you're like, oh yeah, you really found your niche right there.
You can focus on basketball. You don't have to deal with the press. You don't have to deal with any of the other nonsense. Just focus on the guys and like the game of basketball.
Yes, the game of basketball. Yeah.
But so he's an assistant under Derek Fisher, one of the guys he coached in Los Angeles. But as we know about the Knickerbockers in recent memory, it's not good.
No,
it's not good.
Dude, they're actually doing okay this year.
Well, this year, but I mean, during this era.
God, it's been horrible.
You pretty excited?
I am excited. They actually made a good trade, which I still can't even believe I'm saying that because their franchise is the worst.
It's been 50 years, Chris. They're due.
They're the worst. They actually made a good trade with the Raptors, I believe.
I got a hunch they're due.
I got a hunch she's due.
He was hired basically backed by the Lakers again in 28. So him and his wife, who also still works for the Los Angeles Lakers, I mean, that's kind of their team, their franchise. Like, he'll always have some sort of role, it seems like, with the Lakers.
If he wants it.
Yeah, and kudos to him for playing up that that personality and that image.
Well,
in a team which had none of that besides him.
And if you look at current pictures of him like as a coach, you're like, oh yeah, this guy just looks like a coach. If you look at him back in the day, he looks like
a mad scientist.
Yes.
Or like the kid that got really picked on in gym class.
Well, he looks like a wizard that's trying to dress in muggle clothes, you know? You're just like, this stuff doesn't go together. You know?
He went to the University of Phoenix version of Hogwarts.
Yes. He has his little ball bag. It's just endless. It just has so much shit in there. You're just like,
Expecto Patronum.
Yes. And that's what he did for those Showtime Lakers.
But he did it for like 12 years. He played like 12, 14 years in the NBA.
That's why when I remember looking him up, I was just like, this is actually a great career that nobody looks at. 12 years in the NBA, 4 championships, and was immediately cut by the Knicks. So it's like,
well, when you think
the Knicks, you fucked up.
But when you think about it, you never associate like his entire career.
No.
You think of the McHale moment. Or you think of how weird he looked. Not that he actually also played basketball.
Yes.
Which, no, I know that sounds terrible, but like,
But you're not wrong.
When you brought up Kurt Rambis, I thought Kevin McHale almost murdered him.
Yep.
Yeah, those glasses.
Yes, and his look. But you're like, oh yeah, he was a multiple champion and was a huge piece in those championship teams. So,
Oh yes,
Kurt Rambis, everybody.
Kurt Rambis.